Welcome to Jolo, everyone, at Post Restaurant. Here we are, May 2022. So a lot of guests recently been inquiring about our pork ribeye and our apricot glaze, which we do a variation of the apricot glaze also in our lamb chops. So it's so good, even my two kids, Joey and Logan, love this glaze and they ask for it all the time. So you can use this on pork or chicken, lamb obviously, which you just mentioned. So super easy, but the secret to me is the separation is in the preparation, and spend an extra 30-40 minutes to brine your meat. So especially pork, I love to brine. Also chicken, especially whole chickens or half chickens, not so much the breast, but that if you get a nice thick breast, that's definitely worth brining as well. So to make brine, it's super simple. I've already started here. I'm trying to get some water to boil, just 1 quart of water. So just 1 quart, there's a quart deli, and for every quart you want to add at least a 1/4 cup of kosher salt. Do not add the iodized salt. It'll be way too salty. You want to use the kosher salt. You're just going to put that in there. And then I also use sugar. So I use brown sugar. You don't have to use brown sugar, but you can just use regular cane sugar, no problem, just a 1/4 cup. So you get a little sweet and salty there. And then rosemary is my secret weapon. So I love the smell of fresh rosemary, and I guess studies show that smelling it actually improves your memory. So give it a little whiff before you throw it in. So I'm gonna put in 2 sprigs. So let's say this is for 2 to 4 people. It smells beautiful. Break it up. I'm gonna throw 2 more in. Extra rosemary. So now I'm gonna put some garlic in. And with the garlic, you don't have to dice it. You're just gonna give it a quick little mash like that. So I'll put a couple of those in. I'll probably throw a couple more in. Throw 2 more in there. 3. So that's 6 cloves of garlic. So I have that in there. I'm going to throw a little bit of red onion in there. Not much, just a few slices. And ultimately, I'm going to have a little Dijon backdrop in my apricot glaze. So I'm going to start it now to get it infused into the pork. When everything opens up in that pork, all the cell walls open up. So what we're going to do here is get everything beautifully integrated and make sure the sugar and the salt's dissolved. So if you put your pork in there now, you'd cook it. So you have 2 choices. You could either take the pork, take this brine, put it in the refrigerator or freezer for a few hours, or you can do the shortcut that I do, because we all want to eat tonight sometime, right? I'm going to take ice cubes and put it in. So you got to figure you added some more water here. So if you add a little bit more than a 1/4 cup of sugar and a 1/4 cup of kosher salt, you're fine, because you're adding more fluid. You can also substitute, I do it a lot in the fall, I'll use apple cider, half with the water. So half of a quart with apple cider, not vinegar, apple cider or apple juice, and then water. So you get more of that infused flavor of apple in there. So you're gonna think I'm crazy, I'm also gonna take some bacon. You can take raw bacon, but I have some cooked bacon. To me, that smokiness and that baconiness just kind of imparts a little bit into there. And it's okay, there's nothing raw in here that you can't eat. I'm gonna stick my finger in here and just check for salt, sugar, everything's in balance. You can already taste the garlic. So now all you do is, this is cool, you can tell by the touch. So that's room temperature. So you can take your pork. So here's my pork chop right here, deboned. I can put this in here. I've already done that. I don't want to rebrine it. You can see already it's got a little film on there, and it's a little wet from the brine I pulled out. As we brine our pork here at Jolo first before we cook it. So you're going to take your pork, just submerge it right in there, and literally in 1 hour, take it out. If you're brining your pork longer than 4 hours, you might as well take it on a drive in your car and chain it to the trunk and just drive it all around town. That's going to be terrible. So 4-hour max. I do mine about 1 to 2 hours, especially this thin. If it was a double cut pork chop, a little thicker, maybe it gets 2 hours, but 1 hour max for a chop, maybe 90 minutes. So you do something else, drink some wine, make your salad while the pork is brining in here. And if you added more ice cubes, I'm gonna take a little quick sip since I promised you. This is Cabernet Franc, it's stunning. Oh, it's gonna be such a great pairing with this. So now, brine, I get the pork chop. Like I said, the pork chop out here at room temperature for an hour. Is basically when you cook your meats, you want your meats to be at room temperature anyway. So this way the center doesn't get, it's not too cold and the outside's warm and it's a terrible experience. So now I'm going to make glaze for the pork. But before I make the glaze for the pork, I'm going to get the pork going. So that pork's going to take about 4 minutes aside, looking at it. So I've taken it out of the brine. And when I took it out of the brine, you just kind of pat it like this on both sides. You don't want a lot of that, or you can just rinse it out of cool water just to make sure you get a lot of the salt and sugary flavors off, because you just wanted the infusion into the meat. So there I have that. I'm taking a little bit of olive oil right here in the pan. Actually, this burner's a little, you gotta talk to the real chefs. Seems like this one doesn't work quite as well. So anyway, I'm gonna add just a kiss of salt on here and a kiss of pepper. And now I have here in the pan some oil. And if you're gonna get it super warm, use canola oil. Don't use olive oil. I did a little bit of olive oil there. I am gonna cut it with some canola oil, just to increase the smoke point, because the olive oil will burn right up. So this will cut it and increase the flame temperature that you're allowed without it getting a rancid, burnt flavor to the olive oil. So I basically increased that opportunity to get a nice sear there without ruining the olive oil. So while that's happening, I'm gonna make the glaze. Glaze is super easy, and I like super easy, as you know. First thing I'm gonna do is dice some onion. Everybody knows the trick is cut your onion in half, and you wanna go horizontal like this. Maybe every 1/8 of an inch, like that. Always aim the knife down away from the palm and don't go all the way through. So I'm only going to here. There's no reason to go all the way through and cut your hand. Then it's not a quick dinner anymore. Then you're at the emergency room. Now I'm gonna go vertical, like that, like every 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. Super easy. And then here, now you get super perfect dices. Look at that. Nice, easy dices, easy cleanup. Perfect. So I'm gonna take that with some butter. So this is about 2 tablespoons of butter. I like butter, I apologize. So I'm gonna put the onion in here. I'm gonna take my garlic, like that, and just give it a quick little chop like that. Just 1 clove should be enough. There you go. Nice and chopped. You don't think it's super fine. I like a little bit of rusticness in my food. So if things are too perfect, I think a chef's paws have been all over my food for too long. So I like their fingers and their hands to be in and out of my food super fast. So I'm gonna take some rosemary sprigs, just run my fingers down the stem, pinch the top off. I'm gonna dice that up. So now I get some fresh rosemary. You can have fresh thyme too, but I'll be honest with you. In the World Series for the Super Bowl, I'm gonna flip this now. I'm gonna add, it's just gonna go, look at that nice sear there. That's some caramelization you get from the sugar that was in the brine. So that's coming out and you get a nice char there. That's beautiful. And you can have your pork medium rare. So medium, maybe like a 135, 140 internal temperature. You don't have to cook it like chicken to 165, and it's super dry. So that's all I have so far in there is onion, garlic, butter, and thyme. And what you don't want to do is really overcook your garlic and get a burnt flavor to it, because that's terrible. So now, butter, garlic, thyme, rosemary. I'm going to take a little teaspoon of Dijon mustard. I love Grey Poupon. And now, for the piece de resistance, apricot jam. A nice 1.5 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons of apricot jam. For this recipe, I blow people's minds in the winter with lamb. I use blackberry jam or blueberry jam, and they're like, what is that? That's unbelievable. I'm like, you're right, it is. So here, see with the consistency. So the problem with this is going to be, it's going to be super sweet. So you want to add a little vinegar to this, which I'll do here in a minute. So there you go. So now you can see this is smoking up pretty good. So we're going to add a little chicken broth, which is going to go in that gravy later, but like this. So you can have 2 or 3 in here, right? How about we turn the hood fan on? So you can have 2, 3 pork chops in here. You cook it your whole family in that pan. Super easy. So we're just going to cover it up so it cooks a little bit faster. If you do with a lid, turn the heat down to medium. So there you go. So I'm going to add a little chicken broth to this as well. So you're saying, hey, you didn't add any salt and pepper yet. So I'm going to add a little bit of pepper, just a kiss, and a kiss of salt, just a little bit. Because that's going to have plenty of flavor from the brine. The chicken broth already has some salt, but you don't really have it in the onions and the garlic and the aromatics. So I'm just going to put a little vinegar in here. I like to use red wine vinegar. You can use white distilled. Just a kiss. That'll help cut through the sweetness and have the yin-yang effect on the pork. So you can serve this with mashed potatoes. You can serve it over white rice. Super easy. So this dish is pretty much done. Doesn't get much easier than this. So now, take the lid off. I'm going to finish here. I'll try it first. Oh, it is absolutely delicious. Look at this. Get all that fond up the bottom of the pan. Fond is the protein that's caramelized and stuck to the bottom. So you can see how it's stuck on there. That's what we want to see. Watch when I flip this over, how beautiful that is. Look at that. So you get some more in here. You're down to, normally I do 1 pot cooking. We're into 2. That's not too terrible. So there you go. So let that simmer for a couple of minutes. Not a couple minutes, maybe about a minute. So you'll test to check your meats. So whether it's steak or pork, when it's a cut like this, if you press your finger on, you see it a little spongy? You can use your forearm. So that is still kind of, right here is rare, right here is medium rare, and right here is medium, and right here is super tough. That's well done. So you see this is more spongy, and that's not. Obviously I have to get to the gym, but this is how you test and how you learn in a restaurant early. So if your meat feels like that, it's going to be rare. Feels like that, it's going to be medium rare. That's how it feels to me. That feels like medium rare to me. And that's how I want my pork. So you brine it too. So salt is an antimicrobial. So look at that. That's just a beautiful cut of meat. So I'm going to take this off. And the secret to cooking this is now you let this sit for a minute. If you cut into that right now, all the juices are going to bleed out and you're going to have it in the sauce and the meat's not going to be nice and moist. So let it sit for a minute. They say you should let your protein rest as long as it took you to cook it. But just 1 minute's going to be fine. So while that's resting for 30 seconds, the pairing I decided to use for this, it's going to be a ton of flavor in that. You get some sweetness from the apricot, you get the aromatics with the garlic and the onion and the rosemary and the thyme. To me, Cabernet Franc is an underrated grape, and it's in a lot of blends. It's one of the famous Bordeaux varietals. But by itself, when it's exquisitely made, like our Jolo Cabernet Franc is, the berries, the tannins, the acid, the smokiness that you kind of get from French oak aging, just everything in harmony plays so well with this. So now just pretend you take your mashed potatoes, make a little smear like that, or maybe take a bed of rice right here. So if I have a bed of rice right there, I'm going to take it over the bed of rice, maybe at an angle like that, propped up, and then maybe some veggies right here. And then just take all this beautiful glaze, like that, over top. Maybe like a little crusty baguette. So I don't know how long this video is, but we just, other than the brine, which didn't take long, you could have microwaved your 90-second rice, and you're in and out of this dish in 10 minutes or less, and people are going to think you're a rock star. So I know you want to see what the inside looks like, right? So here, it's going to take it so you can see the inside. Look how beautiful that is. Just 1 pan cooking. Look at that, perfectly cooked, it's perfectly medium. That's where you want to see it. And this is absolutely stunningly delicious. Right in the pan, little cover on it, and everything you have at home. And you can use any type. If you don't have apricot jam, like I said, you use blueberry, use raspberry, use strawberry. You can't go wrong. So cheers everyone and happy cooking. Look forward to seeing you at Jolo and In Post Restaurant. Jolo!